Keir Starmer is really going for it on what he is calling Tory sleaze in the run-up to next month's elections. How big a part of your campaigning is it?
Well, of course it affects Wales because we're talking about the Prime Minister and the reputation of the UK Conservative government. We've been talking a lot the last couple of days about redecoration of apartments and so on. Try dealing with the Devolution unit in Downing Street. A chaos of walkouts, throwouts, impossible to be able to deal with. So what Keir Starmer is referring to at that national level, we see at a micro level in relation to trying to deal with 10 Downing Street on devolution matters.
Oh, give us some examples.
Well, the Prime Minister declared when he took office that he was giving himself a new title, that he was going to be Minister for the Union. He set up a unit in number 10 to help with that. And ever since, what we have seen is a constant turnover of staff, people leaving, people being asked to leave. No sooner have you managed to speak to somebody, but they're no longer there. And I really think that it just gives an insight into the ferrets in a sack world of the Conservative Party at Westminster.
OK. Let's talk about Wales. Plaid Cymru pledges a referendum on independence by 2026 in their manifesto. What's wrong with that?
Nothing at all. If they win the election and they persuade a majority of people in Wales to hold such a referendum, then of course they will have the mandate to do it. There's no problem at all with democratic debate about the future of the Union. My party, the Labour Party, we believe in a strong Wales, in a successful United Kingdom, and we have no proposition to put to the people of Wales that we should break up our relationship with the rest of the UK.
You'd win the referendum if polls are to be believed, so why not just put the issue to bed and have it?
Well, because I honestly think that it's an issue that does not grip the imagination or the ambition for the future that people in Wales have. I know it's a bit of a cliche and politicians say it, but I can absolutely genuinely say to you, I've been knocking doors and talking to people for the last 3 weeks, not a single person, including many Plaid Cymru doors that I have knocked, have asked me about independence and our constitutional future. People want to talk to you about the pandemic, about how things are today, the prospects for the future, the policies that we have to make a difference in people's everyday lives. People like me, who are interested in constitutional matters, of course, talk about this sort of thing quite often, but it's not what grips people on the doorstep.
So your message is it no referendum now or no referendum ever while you are First Minister?
Oh, well, my message is that a referendum should come if a party that proposes it wins a majority. My party will not be proposing that, and we have no plans for such a thing. But that doesn't mean the parties who do believe in it don't have a right to put it in their manifestos and to try to campaign for it. I don't think they'll succeed, because I think the bulk of public opinion in Wales is firmly where the Labour Party has been strongly in favour of devolution, but believing we are all better off when we choose to pool our ideas and our resources and have common problems to common solutions. Common solutions to common problems.
If it was the only way of retaining your position as being First Minister was through a coalition with Plaid, would you consider a referendum then?
I don't think that would be likely to be part of any arrangement with another party. No party has ever won the majority in a Welsh election. Our system simply doesn't produce that sort of result. And I've worked in governments in Wales that have involved Plaid Cymru, involved the Liberal Democrats, involved independent members of the Senate. So we're very used to working across party lines when we can craft a programme for government that commands the support of more than one party. I do not think that my party will be inclined to a referendum on a matter that a minority party only had been able to command support for.
So no coalition with Plaid if that was the condition of that coalition and keeping you as First Minister?
Well, you expect me now to give you this answer, won't you, Gloria? I'm out every day trying to win votes for the Labour Party and to persuade as many people as possible to support as many Labour candidates as possible. And that's what I'll be doing for the next 10 days. After that, we deal with the verdict of the voters. But a referendum on independence is not at the heart of this election. It's not what people want to talk about. If we were to need to cooperate with another party, then what I would be talking to them about are the everyday things: the recovery of the health service, the future of our education system, the renewable energy prospects for Wales that are so exciting. There's a whole range of things that really matter to people, and independence simply isn't one of them.
When people are considering whether or not to support the party, are they entitled to know whether the Labour Party may form a coalition, if necessary, with Plaid?
Well, people in Wales, as I say, we've had 20 years of experience of parties working with one another. The government that is just coming to an end was made up of the Labour Party, the Liberal Democrats, and an independent member as well. So while I know coalitions at a Westminster level appear very strange and people get quite excited about them, here in Wales, I think people are just used to the fact that when an election takes place, it leads, more often than not, as it's happened, to discussions between parties. I'm absolutely clear I will not be interested in any sort of political fix. If we have to do it, then what we will be interested in will be that programme, the things that we can agree on, a progressive agenda that delivers the sort of fairer, stronger, greener Wales. Those are the things that people want to talk to me about. And, my job is to persuade as many of people as possible who believe those things, that the Labour Party remains the best vehicle to give those things expression in government.
Are Plaid a progressive party, in your view, if being a progressive party is your terms of working together?
Well, we had a term of government in a full coalition with Plaid Cymru, and it was a meeting of the parties at their progressive wings. Plaid Cymru has always seemed to me to be a coalition itself of two parties. You have some people who, in other circumstances, would be natural members of the Labour Party. And then you have a sort of cultural nationalist wing to Plaid Cymru, where the language and the culture and so on are what draw people into membership of that party. Those views are not always at the progressive end of politics, but Plaid Cymru does contain progressive people. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
How do you feel when you look at polling which was conducted by YouGov and Yes Cymru, which found a narrow majority of Labour voters would back independence?
Well, as ever in a poll, I think it depends on the question you've asked people. So there's no doubt that the last 12 months and the way that the pandemic has shone light on the way that we have used our powers in Wales has brought home to people the extent to which we have independent powers already, and the Welsh Government has demonstrated our willingness to use those powers when we have needed to safeguard people in Wales, even when that is not what has happened in other parts of the UK. And I think when people talk about independence, that's more what they're talking about. They want a strong Wales. They want a strong devolution settlement. They want a settlement that the Prime Minister cannot, as he does every day, try to roll back at a whim. But I don't think that those people think that our future is best secured by severing our links with working people in other parts of the United Kingdom. I'm a Labour Party member. I think that the things that unite working people in Wales and England and Scotland are things that are worth us working together on to secure the sort of government that would mean a progressive government, not just for Wales, but for the whole of the United Kingdom.
You've talked about being out on the doorsteps and campaigning, as all politicians are in the run-up to these elections. You will no doubt have seen the Keir Starmer incident, which being shouted at on a pub visit last week. It wasn't particularly pleasant viewing, whichever party of politician was being subject to that. Does it happen to you? How do you deal with somebody who's shouting in your face as a politician?
Well, I think the good news is that it happens very rarely. And that almost everybody, whether they're going to vote for you or not, whether they agree with you or not, are generally polite. And actually, in the last few weeks, particularly with the sun shining and people's mood lifting after a long, difficult winter, people are generally very pleasant. There's no excuse for the sort of behaviour that you sometimes see where people who are, after all, just going about the business of trying to conduct a democracy here in the UK are subject to that sort of attack. I think if you have to deal with it, the best thing you can do generally is to still show the person that you are trying to listen to what they have to say, that although they are angry and although they are overwrought, that there is something in what they have to say that any politician ought to be able to try to attend to. And generally, not with everybody, but generally, if someone sees that you are still willing to listen and to hear what they have to say, then some of that spur of the moment anger that people show drains away a bit, and you can still have a sensible conversation.
Of course, you've been First Minister during the pandemic. The Indian variant is in the UK, including in Wales. Are you learning anything specifically about the Indian variant and how that spreads?
Well, we do have 8 cases of it here in Wales. They're all of them being very carefully managed by our local public health teams, and the advice I had at the end of last week was that there's no cause for alarm because we know who the people are and they are doing all the right things. We have some of the best genomic sequencing capacity in the world in Wales, and so we are having all of those cases properly sequenced. What we're learning, I'm afraid, is that we probably don't know enough about this variant. We don't quite know how much it will be transmissible. We don't know enough about how susceptible it will be to vaccination. That is why we need the UK government to take a precautionary approach to international travel. The last thing people in Wales want is to put everything we've managed to achieve together at risk by the re-importation of the virus into the UK and into Wales.